All right, shalom to the 12 tribes. All praise to the Most High Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, which is the name of the Father and the Son in the Paleo Hebrew tongue. Shabbat shalom to those of y'all who are observing the Sabbath today, and a sharp Pesach or happy Passover to a few of you brothers and sisters that I know are observing the Passover today. So I'm going to jump right into today's lesson. We're going to go over a few current events, a few clips from certain videos. I'm going to try and keep it short, but there's quite a bit of information to go over that I'm going to try and go over pretty quickly. And then I'm also going to make or post a shorter video onto Instagram probably tomorrow for those of y'all who don't have as much time or don't have as long of an attention span, right? So I'm going to start in Genesis chapter 1 and verse 14. It says, "And the Most High said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years." So, right from the beginning, Genesis chapter 1, it said that the Most High made lights in the firmament, the sun and the moon, if you keep reading, and it said that let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. Right? So at the beginning of the whole Bible, it said that the Most High made the sun and the moon for signs. Right? So if you don't know, there's a solar eclipse that is coming up on April 8th, 4/8, 2024. Okay, so a solar eclipse many times is a sign of judgment or it's a sign of war when you look into it. There have only been 8 eclipses like this since the United States became a country in 1776. Okay, there's only been 8 eclipses like this. 2 of them were during the Revolutionary War, 3 of them were during the Civil War, and 2 of them were during the Vietnam War. Okay, so that's 7. The last one that occurred was in 2017. For some of y'all who may remember, there was no quote unquote war going on, even though we know that the United States occupies and is in over 100 different countries in some way, shape, or form, has their military in over 100 countries. But there was no major war going on in 2017 when it happened, right? This will be the 8th eclipse like this. So it's going to be on 4/8. So again, most eclipses have been during war times. If you look at in history, this is true as well, right? So going along with Genesis 1 and 14, it says that the sun and the moon will be for signs, right? And I do believe that this is a sign of something to come. I'm not going to say it's going to be exactly this is going to happen or that's going to happen, but my rib, many brothers and sisters, my oldest daughter as well, we were talking about it earlier. I've been saying for a few months now that I felt in my spirit, I've had some type of discernment around Passover that something big was going to happen. I was like, I don't know what it is, but I just feel in my spirit something around this time is going to happen. Like I said, some brothers and sisters are keeping Passover today. The majority of the ones that I know are keeping it next month. Like we'll be keeping it 2 weeks after this happens. But what's interesting to me is that most people's new year, according to the moon, actually starts around April 10th. Because if you look at the moon cycles, it's April 10th to the 12th, around there, depending if you're going by the dark moon or by the first light. So this is very symbolic of what's to come during this next Hebrew year. If you're going off the Hebrew calendar, you know that the new year starts in the springtime. The springtime just passed or just started March 19th, a couple days ago. Then most people go, okay, spring started March 19th. So the next new moon is the beginning of the Hebrew year, right? Then you count 14 days from there, and that would be the Passover. So again, getting back to the eclipse is going to pass Its path is going to start in Mexico. It's going to go through Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, New York, Pennsylvania, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, and then going out into the Atlantic, right? Small portions of Kentucky, Michigan, and Tennessee will also experience almost the entire eclipse as well. So it's going straight across the United States. Something very interesting, like I said, I'm gonna play a couple clips for a few people to be witness or bear witness to this as well. I'm sure some of y'all may have already seen them. Obviously, on here, you're not gonna be able to see the actual clip, but you're gonna hear just few people giving testimony to what they've been hearing, um, as far as what's going down with the government, whether it be the local governments, state governments, counties, cities, and then the actual United States government. Right? There's a lot of things going on right now. There's a lot of people. I have certain family members and old acquaintances in the army and the armed forces and stuff as well. A lot of people are saying that a lot of different places are preparing for some reason or another for the eclipse. Right? Barzayah Judah, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai Barakatah, to you and to your household. Adara Yanaya Shalom. Right? So, something to take into account before I go ahead and play at least one of these clips real quick is that 3 weeks ago, the FBI was training for biological weapons and how they would react to it, how they would respond to it, and how they would lock down people if they needed to, right? So, for those of y'all who remember, me and the brother Jomar a few years back, when the whole C-19 thing was happening, we did a whole lesson and I did a few videos on how they simulated a few months before the C-19 happened, right? They simulated a disease, to see what was going to happen, right? They had all types of world leaders in on it, right? It was about um, some type of disease happening, how they would react to it, how it would spread, how fast it would spread, how people would react, how they would have to get jabs out, etc. Right? So now you have about 2 or 3 months ago, they had a disease X training seminar. I did a video on that as well if some of y'all saw it. Um, it was also went along with the video that I did that was on the movie Leave the World Behind. So it said it was about 2 to 3 months ago, I believe. It was a disease X training seminar. The World Health Organization, the CDC, the World Economic Forum, they were all in on it, right? And they called it Disease X. That was just a name they gave, a placeholder name for whatever disease they said may come and may spread. Okay, this isn't a coincidence at all. This is happening right before, just like it happened before, the whole pandemic happened. Okay, by now, I would like to think that the majority of y'all that may follow me on Instagram or on here or have been for years, I am pretty sure you do not trust the government just like me, right? So, all that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and play a clip, and then I'm gonna get some more scriptures and point out a few things as well. Warriors Dream, Shabbat Shalom. Hope everyone's well, you and yours as well. I appreciate that. Barzia Judah, how about Shemi Hashai Brakatham to you and your household as well. The water, the water. And to everybody else who's on here, Shalom, Barakatah. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this first clip. If y'all can't hear it, let me know, and I'll try and put it a little bit closer. So this first clip is going to be actually, well, I have two clips, right? One of them's about 10 minutes long. One of them's about 2 minutes long. So I'm gonna go ahead and play the 2 minute clip first, and then I'll kind of elaborate on it. Y'all could tell me what you think about it as well.
About what's going on in Oklahoma City and many other counties and states in America coming up in April. I just want to have this on your radar so you guys know what's going on, okay? There's an eclipse about to happen. Everybody's talking about it, but I want you guys to know what's going on behind the scenes as we get ready for this eclipse. I'm going to read you a couple news stories, and I want you to let this stuff sink in a little bit. In Oklahoma, the National Guard will have guardsmen present for the total solar eclipse on April 8th. 27 members of an elite chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear unit will be housed. Residents are being urged to stock up with 1 to 2 weeks of food in advance of the event. Communication facilities could become overloaded, possibly making cell phone calls difficult. Now, here's the actual story from Oklahoma, and I'm going to read it right now, okay? You guys, I hope you guys are paying attention. The Oklahoma National Guard will have guardsmen present in McLean County for the total solar eclipse on April 8th. County Emergency Management Director Cody McDonald told county commissioners. It is estimated about 100,000 people may be in the county for the event. The 22 members of an elite chemical, biological, and radiological and nuclear unit will be housed in Broken Bow, in addition to up to 110 to 150 Oklahoma Highway Patrol troopers. There will be about 150 other first responders and volunteers, with many staying at either the sports complex in Broken Bow or in former National Guard Armory in Idabel. McDonald is seeking food and funding for feeding them. This is good stuff, man. He said that the federal government was turned down funding to feed them. The state troopers will be scattered throughout the county, he said. Residents are being urged to stock up with 1 or 2 weeks of food in advance of the event and have their fuel tanks full. Some parts of the county could have traffic and standstill, at least moving very slowly. It's also considered likely that communication.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut it off right there. Barziyat Judah sounds like a cyber attack prep. So I also did a video not too long ago, speaking on cyber attacks as well. It's something that our government, the federal government, and more localized like state officials and things like that have talked about. And I'm sure y'all have seen at least articles or you've seen videos or whatever the case may be, talking about the possibilities of cyber attacks, right? So it's very interesting because this all goes back to a couple months ago when I did the video on the whole movie that came out, Leave the World Behind, right? And they were hinting towards, if not telling you, that it was some type of cyber attack, right? Then you have a few weeks back where I don't know what percentage, I think it was more than 50% of people either lost cell phone service or they had their service interrupted in some way, shape, or form. Right. It surprisingly didn't happen to me. And I'm in, like most of y'all know, I'm in deep South Texas. I actually live right next to the border. Nothing like that happened to me or anyone I know around here. Right. But the point is, they have been hinting at cyber attacks for a very long time. And it's just like in the scriptures, I had pointed out in that video as well. The Most High always reveals stuff before he makes it happen because he's a fair and just power. He's a fair and just God. So on the left hand, Satan lives by that rule as well, right? Satan will tell you what he's going to do and then do it, because now it's on you to actually act or prepare or react to it, and you can't say you didn't know, right? So this is Amos 3 and 7. It says, surely Yahweh will do nothing, but he revealeth his secret unto his servants the prophet. So he won't do anything major like that until he reveals certain things or anything that's really important, his secrets, to his servants, the prophets. So a lot of people are talking about this right now. And it's very interesting that whether it's people in the truth or whether it's people, out of the truth, are pointing out, like, why in Oklahoma, which obviously it's going to run through Oklahoma, the eclipse, Are they going to have some are reporting 22 and some are reporting 27 biochemical and nuclear specialists, right? They're being deployed with hundreds of first responders to the area, right? And they're estimating about 100,000 people in the county at that time going to view the eclipse, right? Because it's going to be a lot of people in 2017. I don't know if y'all remember, but there was people from all around traveling to go see the eclipse. It's kind of like a once in a lifetime opportunity for most generations, right? But what I was thinking is, imagine this: 100,000 people, okay, going to see the eclipse. That sounds like the perfect setup for some type of biochemical attack, right? Whether it be a red flag, whether it be um, Lisa Harris said Black Swan event, right? They've been talking about Black Swan event, some type of event that's going to happen and change society completely, right? We know that there's people like Bill Gates and other very, very wealthy billionaires that want to decrease the population. We know that all the elites want total control. And this is a very good opportunity in order to do that, right? If you read, if any of y'all have read the book, The Art of War by Sun Tzu, he says that all warfare is based off of deception, right? So you look for little um, openings in order to use your types of warfare. And this will be a very, for the enemy, it would be a very expedient or easy way to attack a lot of people, right? But going back to what the man was saying, imagine 27 biochemical specialists and nuclear specialists set up all in hazmat suits and all that type of stuff. And then you got 100,000 people and just regular going out there to watch, right? So what does the government know in order to be doing all of this, right? I'm going to go ahead and play one more clip. It's a little bit longer. If y'all can't hear it, just let me know and I'll try and skip back because my internet connection can be a little shoddy at times. I'm going to play one more and then I'm going to get some scriptures and get y'all's opinion on a few things and just kind of expound on it. So this video has been going around. It's a man that talked to someone from Homeland Security. He knows someone that's close to him on the inside of Homeland Security, and they had a meeting this past weekend. They're supposed to have one, I believe, on Monday again. So here's the clip.
I pretty much was nerve rattled after what I heard. But I'm going to tell you what the emergency, what's behind this emergency for the solar eclipse, what's the deeper intel, and not only that, how they want emergency communication systems to be implemented, what specific groups they're going to be targeting. We're about to get into all that right here and information that I did separate research to try to link up and confirm more on this scenario. So he gets on the phone with me yesterday after they have this meeting. Who was this meeting with? It's with Homeland Security. So, and he said there were New York instructors there. I have a list right here. I took notes of every single thing that he said because I couldn't record his voice. Obviously, he's trying to stay discreet. He said they were focusing on anti-vaccine people, anti-government people, preppers, Trump supporters. He even goes into deeper in the scenario what we're going to get to here in a second. But he said they didn't want the public to have any communication between each other.
So I'm gonna pause it right there real quick. Just like going back to that movie, right? Leave the World Behind. They didn't want them to have any communication between one another. So that just makes me think of how a few weeks ago all the cell phone service was cut out, right? Because if you know anything about all the stuff that they implement, they always test it out first on a smaller scale, and then they'll bring it in on a larger scale.
Any communication at all. And we told you yesterday that sheriff that came out and said it could be a potential terror attack. Well, we got more intel on what could actually happen in the solar eclipse, but just listen to this 23-second clip really quick.
So there is also, if you Google or if you YouTube it, it should come out. Just put sheriff speaks, or just put sheriff solar eclipse terrorist attack, and it should come out. Right, there's a sheriff that came out and said, even though it seemed like he wasn't supposed to, that they're preparing for a terrorist attack. Right. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna read this verse that the brother posted, and then I'll keep going with the clip. This is Proverbs 22:3, one of my favorite verses. A prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. Beautiful verse, self-explanatory. A prudent man, prudent. My favorite definition of this word is someone who sees the future and prepares according to wisdom. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and keep going with this clip.
That's not all that he's concerned about. That people want to do us harm, use an event like this where a lot of people are gathered to do some type of terror event. The director of the Lake County Emergency Management Agency told me they've been preparing for the solar eclipse now for about 2 years.
So the director of the Lake County preparedness, he said that they've been preparing for this, for the solar eclipse, for 2 years. Okay, 2 years. I'm gonna go ahead and keep playing it.
They've been preparing for this for 2 years. Imagine that, for 2 years. That sounds like a lot of preparation going into that. In the video yesterday, I told you the military is getting into a building that they won the Allied War in World War II, just Idabel, which you can find that video after this video. But let's get into this right now. So they don't want any communications between us.
So I just saw the comment by the brother Brazil Judah. A lot of videos have been getting taken down. For everyone who's on here right now, right? You may not see this video up later on because multiple videos, multiple information that's getting put out on this is being taken down. But like I said, I'm gonna post a much shorter clip to my Instagram tomorrow, Yahweh Ratazah, most high willing, and it's gonna have a lot of this information just compressed. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and keep going. But Khan, how do you prepare for a solar eclipse? And why would you be preparing for 2 years in advance? You get what I'm saying? And there's a lot of other stuff that I'm gonna get into in just a second when this is over, because when you really think about it, the way they're preparing for this eclipse is completely different than the one that was in 2017. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and keep going with the clip.
And what is the big event that they're doing? This is what he told me inside of Homeland Security yesterday. They were talking about. He said during the solar eclipse, while people are all out there looking, they're planning. The intel that they've got is a possible biological attack on people while the solar eclipse is freaking happening. Yes, I just said that, while the solar eclipse is happening. And you're like, okay, well, where are they going to do that? Well, all the people out for the solar eclipse, I'm potentially believing, could be targets. Okay, so this is not speculation. This is totally inside information about what they said. And they're talking about how the first responders' mental health, they need, because their mental health is going to be very, very, out of whack after this. So when he told me that they potentially might be doing a biological attack, that's the intel. Who's going to be doing it, I don't know. But however, I look deeper.
So real quick, let me just ask y'all this, right? Who do y'all think would be doing this? Right? When you know the powers that be, we all know who is giving them the power. We all know the Most High is basically signing off on it. Everything's gonna go according to his will, right? But who do y'all think is doing this? I'm gonna keep it going.
And then I seen that 3 weeks ago, none of us was paying attention to the fact that the FBI just had a training drill for a biological attack, and they're getting hospitals ready for it.
So that's what I mentioned a while ago. It was maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago that the FBI was doing drills in hospitals, right, in case of a biological attack. These are the same type of drills that they did before the whole C-19, the pandemic, and with other when they do false flag events, whether it be like the shootings at certain schools, Sandy Hook, etc., or whether it be with 9/11. If you really pay attention and look back at those events, they always do drills before they actually play it out. Okay, and that's something to pay attention to because like I said before, like it said in Amos the third chapter, they go by the same rules as the Most High. The Most High is going to reveal things to his prophets, to those with eyes to see, with ears to hear, and Satan has to show his hand before he plays his hand as well, right? So I'm gonna get to the comments, but I'm gonna go ahead and finish this clip first.
So I want you to look at this video clip real quick and just look at what we all missed and how this lines up with the agenda. Staff at multiple local hospitals are now better prepared to handle a potential emergency. The FBI spent time in 3 ERs today in our area, walking doctors, nurses, and other staff through what they could do in case of a bioterrorism disaster.
So the FBI was training nurses and doctors on how to react to a biochemical disaster.
11 News reporter Elmer Mejia Segastumi is joining me live from Penrose Hospital, one of the locations that participated. An agent with the FBI told you that disasters like these help improve communications, or disaster exercises, I should say, help improve communication among staff and others. Adam, a hospital official says that these drills are important in keeping the staff on their toes and prepared. They say the staff hospital does numerous drills throughout the years. It helps them determine what needs the hospital may have depending on the situation. Special Agent David Autry says no drill ever goes 100% perfectly, but they consider every drill a success because it helps them identify the things the FBI and hospitals need to improve on. Hospital officials say the disaster scenario was a toxin put in people's milk. The goal was to monitor how departments and agencies communicated with one another.
So they drilled a toxin being put in people's milk. Crazy, right?
There's a need for all of us. There's no one single agency that can handle this alone. Again, we handle that law enforcement investigation relief from the federal side, but that includes our state and local partners from law enforcement, it includes public health. When you look at a WMD event, it's going to require all partners to come together.
So when you look at a WMD event, for those of y'all who don't know, that's a weapons of mass destruction event. So they were preparing or training for or simulating a weapons of mass destruction event. And again, like they said in Oklahoma, how they were going to have the 7 specialists in chemical, bio, and nuclear specialists, right? This is the type of thing that they're talking about, the type of event that they're preparing for. Weapon of mass destruction, meaning killing thousands and thousands and thousands.
The FBI and local hospitals say that after these disaster scenario exercises, hit that super chat now. I have so much more to tell you, but please, while we're live right now, while you're watching this, share this out. More importantly, to your friends, to your family, to all the people that's going to be going to the solar eclipse, so we can potentially avert them getting hit with biological materials that is probably going to be dispersed on crowds when this event happens. That's the inside intel, and there's more intel than that we're going to get to right now.
So just to give y'all a little personal experience, right? Earlier this morning, I work at one of the bridge crossings, right? And earlier this morning, on Fridays, I go in super early, like 4 o'clock in the morning. I showed up, and you know, it doesn't get bright till maybe 7:30. By that time, well, even before that time when I showed up, it was completely just covered in fog. You could barely see 5 feet in front of you, right? And as I was outside for a few minutes, I had a cover on my face, 100% cotton cover on my face. But when I took it off, I immediately got a scratchy throat. As I breathed in a couple of times, I had to like spit, and many times this has happened to where the fog, to me, it just doesn't seem real. It doesn't seem natural. And I will literally pray to the Most High, like no weapon formed against me will prosper. Baba Kashal, keep me safe, keep me healthy, etc. Right. But today, for some reason, I guess because I've been looking into this topic and stuff, I was like, man, it would be so easy for them to spread something like that. Right. It would be so easy. I remember back when I was in college, not to digress from the subject, but it goes along with this. When I was in college, me and my rib took a course together. It was a speech course, and at the end of the class we had to give a speech that was like 20-30% of our grade, and I wanted to do it on something at that time that I thought was like gonna kind of wake people up, so I did it on chemtrails, right? And all the chemicals and all the types of things that are in chemtrails, how the government was using planes and paying off pilots, etc., to be spraying us with aluminum and barium and all these other chemicals, right? I won't get too into it. But it is very easy. They've been doing this for decades already, spraying people like bugs. It would be so simple if there's 100,000 people, like they said in Oklahoma, right? You know how easy it would be to just spray the sky and all that falls on them. Let's say only half of them get sick, and then they go and spread it to their families, and it keeps going and keeps going and keeps going, etc. Right? So just to give you all an example of how easy, because some people think this is crazy. Some people are gonna be like, man, these people are crazy. They're conspiracy theorists, whatever. I say conspiracy realist because if you look at all the conspiracies from the past 5 to 10 years, they have almost all come true, right? They have almost all come to pass and been proven true, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and play this, and then I'll get to the comments. We're about halfway done with it.
Let's talk about how they're telling law enforcement in this meeting with Homeland Security, they're telling them on the population that, hey, look, we need you to enforce information because during the last pandemic, everything got out of hand. We need you to track their cell phones, which they did in the last pandemic. We need you to basically be in control. And why do you think all the communication systems are upgrading? You see all these counties saying, oh, we got to upgrade the communication systems.
So I don't know if in y'all's area, it shows there's like what 12 people on. If have has anybody in y'all's area seen how they're doing the underground cables? Right, they're calling it 10G cables. Okay, a lot of people, not in the area I'm in, but about an hour away, which I used to work there. I'll be going back and forth in Corpus Christi, which is about 2 hours away. Or I would used to travel to go work there. San Antonio, Texas, over there as well. They're upgrading a whole lot all around, especially in these bigger cities, right? So what he's saying, I could be a witness to that as well, at least down here in Texas in the bigger cities.
And then you see where they're having all these meetings and stuff like that for the communication systems. So the reason they don't want any communication between us because they said how the public was distrusting all of them, how we distrusted them during the ongoing operations of the first pandemic, because we're not just talking about what's happening in the solar eclipse, we're talking about the potential next plan, which he gets into here and he talks about every single virus they talk about. And when I'm looking here, that's because I got this list. I told you I took notes. I wrote down all this stuff when he was talking to me on his phone call. So The communication basically is the reason why emergency stuff is coming out right now is because we're not going to have communication with each other. They're going to make sure that he said it's only going to be cell phone communication. Like you're going to get emergency alert. The emergency systems, like I was saying, they're not going to be able to be like you're going to have your Faraday bag ready because the tracking system. Somebody says, "Thank you, sis, Stephen. Appreciate you. No problem." So the emergency systems, you need to get your Faraday bags ready because they're going to be tracking you actively. They're going to be looking into that. They're going to be basically trying as much as possible to get who's on the target list. So the next thing is they talked about a lot of different virus things, virus scenarios. We want to get into that right now. And he was talking about the deer situation, right? The zombie deer thing. He said that was one thing that they said was going to jump to humans, and basically since that's in a lab somewhere, you already know what's going on with that.
So another thing that's interesting for some of y'all may have seen it, maybe some of y'all haven't. There's a virus, um, supposed virus, alleged virus that they found in deers to where the deer would die and then come back to life, right? And if you know anything about like the C19 or the strains that were coming out, they've came out and said that they're all lab made, right? You had Donald Trump back years ago saying it was a Chinese virus. They literally engineered it. And our country or people from this country can blame whoever they want, but we all know the elites at the very top level are all in on it together, right? And another just side note on the movie, Leave the World Behind, you see the symbolism through the deer as well, right?
They're whipping it up and they're going to try to make something jump. He also said that in this meeting with Homeland Security, they were talking about how they were going to be ready to lock people in their houses. And he gave me this map as well. So the map is pretty much, he said, this is public knowledge right here. And this is basically the map here. So whenever environmental supposedly disasters happen, this is the response in all the states, and they call this apple tree map. Interesting. So moving past that, he said the main things inside his Homeland Security meeting that they talked about, but they were going to need to install certain people for the CDC's interest, meaning politicians as puppets. They talked about Ebola. They talked about COVID, measles, and like I just said, the brain wasting disease. How to map out this is the part where it gets crazy. Obviously, we've got some rain about to come, but we're gonna be able to finish this before that happens. Mass casualty. How to map out the population and round up the homeless. So this is another thing they're talking about within these meetings. He's gonna have a meeting also coming up, so you want to stay around because Monday I'll be telling you about the next meeting, which martial law is what they're talking about in that one.
So one thing to point out real quick as well is he said that they were talking about rounding up the homeless. Some of y'all may remember during the last pandemic, a lot of people were reporting that the homeless population was basically disappeared in certain cities. Right now, I don't know exactly what happened. Maybe they unalived them. Maybe they took them into human trafficking. Maybe they used them as experiments, etc. Who knows? But that's something that has happened throughout history.
But they're talking about locking people into their homes. Two, he said that they're going to try to get religious people on board with getting people to get the vax. So basically saying that the churches, the preachers, and stuff like that, they're going to go around and they're going to have campaigns to try to push them to get you to trust them when they pull out this next version of whatever the pandemic is so that you can go and take, you already know what they're going to be pushing.
So for those of y'all who may remember, those of y'all who were in the faith or just had eyes to see at that point in time when the last pandemic happened, there was a bunch of these famous mega church owners, so-called pastors, ministers, priests, etc., pushing the jab, right? And this is the exact same thing that they're going to do again, because religion is a form of witchcraft, right? Religion, and whether it be Catholicism, whether it be modernized Christianity, it doesn't matter what sect these people are under, it is a form of witchcraft. And we know that pharmakia, right, which is sorcery or witchcraft, that it talks about in the book of Revelation, pharmakia is actually sorcery. Pharmaceuticals, which is what exactly what these jabs are. So it's just two different forms of witchcraft, or witches and warlocks, modern day, what we would call them, right? Pushing pharmakia on people, and people are so blind, the blind, they'll both fall into a pit. You're gonna have these people taking kickbacks, so-called priests, ministers, pastors, etc., pushing it on the people, and these people idolize and worship these witches and warlocks, aka pastors, so much that they're gonna trust them instead of trusting in the Most High, and they're gonna take it again, right? And they're gonna take it again and again and again. And if they say you need 10, 20, 30 boosters, whatever, they're gonna keep doing it because they don't trust in the Most High, and they actually trust in man, right? And the Bible says, cursed be him who makes man his arm, makes man his strength, right? Our strength and our power is supposed to come from the Most High, from our Creator, which is who we are to trust in. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this clip. There's only about a minute left, and then I'll elaborate on it.
Somebody says we are real out here, JWTV. Yeah, we are real, and this is all getting real. And I'm telling you, this information here extremely. He said this was the composure of Homeland Security. They were extremely worried. He said extremely worried. And so the first day was supposed to be an exercise. He said there was no exercise, and also they didn't allow any cell phones in the building because they didn't want anybody recording anything. So all the information here that I'm giving you, you're not going to get it anywhere else. This stuff should be spread out massively. Do you know how many lives could be saved during this event just because we avert this? And we know people are still going to say, well, I'm not going to not go. I'm going to go anyway. But let them do that. But the problem is the people who don't know, if this doesn't get to them, they don't have a chance to basically avert what's coming. And that means that all of us should be prepared and ready if they're going to spread something biological. That's how the first half of this next event begins.
So that's the end of the clip. So the brother or the man said that's how the first half of this event begins. Okay, that's what he finished with. Now, it's true. I believe some of the things that he's saying. I'm not saying every single thing that he said is true. I don't know the man. Um, but what I will say is that when you look into this yourself, there's no, I do not believe in coincidences when it comes to large scale events. I do not believe that me and multiple brothers and even a few sisters that I've spoken to in the last months, I've mentioned to them, man, I just feel like something around Passover. I've been telling my rib for months. I've been, like I said, I've been telling my oldest daughter for months. So when I was going over some of this with them earlier, my oldest daughter especially, she's like, man, you've been saying that for months, and now that this is coming to pass and all this information is coming out, it's no coincidence, right? Like the brother just said, Barzayah Judah. There's no coincidence at all. So one of the things that the man said, and I'm gonna go back up on the comments and read a few of them in just a second, but one of the last things that he said is that this information he got from someone in HLS, in Homeland Security, right? Is it was information that they did not want to get out there. Obviously, they had the meetings they had was completely uh, without cell phones, like you said, not even allowed in the building. But like it says here in Luke chapter 12 and verse 2, it says, "For there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known." Anything they try to cover, the Most High is going to reveal. Anything that they try to hide is going to be made known. Verse 3, "Therefore, whatsoever ye have spoken in darkness," they were trying to keep it in the dark, right? They were trying to keep it in the dark and not let it come to the light. It says, whatsoever ye have spoken in darkness shall be heard in the light, and that which ye have spoken in the ear in closets shall be proclaimed upon the housetops. Right? So this information is going to get out there no matter what, in one way or another. Right? And like Yahushua said, like our Messiah said in Matthew chapter 13, I'm going to go ahead and read it. Matthew 13 and 16, it says, but blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. 17, for verily I say unto you that many prophets and righteous men have desired to see those things which ye see and have not seen them, and to hear those things which ye hear and have not heard them. So the things that are coming to pass right now, if you could see that this is some type of warning, right? And like I said before, an eclipse is always a warning in some way or another, right? Because going back to Genesis 1 and 14, it says, and the Most High said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, right? So it is for signs. Like I mentioned before, there's been 8 eclipses, two during the Civil War, or Salakia, three during the Civil War, two during the Revolutionary War, two during the Vietnam War, right? And I agree 100%. I was just telling a sister this 2 days ago, Ak. It's always something around the time of Passover, Ak. Every year since I've been in the truth, 5 years, it's literally every year a bunch of wicked spirits running rampant. I've been telling a few brothers, and I was telling a sister a couple days ago about this. Before Passover, something always, it's multiple things. It's been my experience exactly the same as you, Ak. I share the exact same sentiment. It's always something coming up before the Passover, because Passover is the most important holy day. Now, it doesn't say in the Bible the holy days are ranked in this order. This is number one, this is number two, etc. But we know that the lamb without blemish represents our Messiah. The blood that covered the door, it represented the blood of our Messiah being shed for us and it covering us. So this is the most important holy day, right? When you go into the book of Corinthians, the 11th chapter, and it tells you that you shouldn't even observe the Passover if you're not worthy of eating of that Passover, because you're not discerning correctly our Messiah and what he did for us. So it's always before, just like you said, because Satan doesn't want us to do something for the Most High. And by you not keeping Passover, it is a sin. So it's always something happening right before the Passover. And this year has not been any different for me as well. I've had to, just in the past couple of weeks, I've had to counsel with multiple people, just because a lot of temptations and a lot of things coming up before the Passover that are trying to trip up brothers and sisters, a lot of stumbling blocks. So we got to be very careful to watch our path, to stay on the kingdom's path, to stay on this straight and narrow, because you start walking off that path and you're going to hit some stumbling blocks. Proverbs 25 and 2. It is the glory of the Most High to conceal a thing, but the honor of kings is to search out a matter. Khan. And we know that Israelite men that are moving in the spirit of wisdom and the spirit of discernment are considered the kings, and the lowercase g, gods of the earth, right? Psalm 82 and 5 says, ye are gods. And we are to search out matters. Just like it says in Sirach, it says, be not ignorant of anything, whether it's big or whether it's small. To me, this is a sign of something much bigger to come. Now, I'm not saying, again, I'm not saying this specifically is going to happen, that specifically is going to happen, but I know for a fact the Most High has been putting it on my spirit for months already to know, hey, something is coming around the time of the Passover, right? Warrior's Dream. Seriously, Barzayah, I was hoping to do Passover this year, and if a major event happens, it will complicate celebrating the Most High's feast. Notice how nothing stops the world's holidays. So let me just say this real quick to you, brother Warrior's Dream. The enemy is not going to be able to stop anything that the Most High doesn't green light, right? So if it's the Most High's will for you to keep the Passover, you're going to keep the Passover. I'm going to keep the Passover. All the brothers and sisters are here on here are going to keep it as well if it's the Most High's will for them to do so, right? Just to throw that out there. So I'm gonna go back up on the comments and then I'm gonna elaborate on a couple of things. Um, Let me see. Potts, shalom, brother. Hope all is well with you in your house. Heavy. It's a heavy thing to deal with. Some people are treating it like um again, I mean, I don't like to use that term, but a conspiracy theory type of thing. But when you go into the word and you go into the scriptures when it pertains to eclipses, like in the book of Jonah, for example, when you look through historical events, there's many historians and even so-called scientists and things of that nature, astrologers, that have said that at the time when Jonah was sent to Nineveh, right, when he was sent to Nineveh, there was an eclipse at that time. And Jonah was sent to Nineveh for what reason? He was sent there to tell the people to do what? To repent, right? So at this point in time, what we need to be doing is telling people to repent, right? And I'm gonna, like I said before, I'm gonna make a shorter video on this, um, just to give the information real quick. But just so y'all know, 7 cities in the United States are called Nineveh. Okay, this solar eclipse is going to cross all 7 of them. So there's 7 cities called Nineveh in the USA. There's one called Nineveh in Canada, in I believe it's in Nova Scotia. Okay, so it's all 7 in the United States called Nineveh. It's gonna pass through, right? It's going to go through Nineveh, Texas. It's going to go through Jonah, Texas, which Jonah went to preach in Nineveh, right? It's going to go through Cross, Texas, right? Which we know what the cross symbolizes. Not that we're to idolize it, right? It's going to go between Groom and Bridge, the cities of Groom and Bridge. I mean, Salakia and Bridegroom, right? Groom, Texas, Bride, Texas, which bridegroom. We know who the bridegroom is, right? So there's a lot of little things like that where it's like it's not a coincidence, right? And remember how I said the last eclipse was August 21st, 2017. about 7 years ago, right? That last eclipse went through 7 cities that were called Salem or Salem, which we know in Hebrew would be Shalom, right? Which Jerusalem, Salem is what it was called, right? So 7 years ago, the eclipse went through 7 cities in the United States called Salem or Jerusalem. Now it's going to go through 7 cities called Nineveh. There's no way that that is a coincidence, right? Kifa or Kefa, signs to prepare for what's coming and stop playing games. Khan, I agree 144%. It is signs to prepare. For those of y'all who know me, some of y'all or some brothers and sisters don't like me because of this, but I've been telling y'all for at least 5 years. I've been in the truth. It'll be 7 in May. At least 5 years been saying you should prepare yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, get your temple in order, get your house in order, get your finances in order, right? I've been telling brothers you need to be a covering to your family. I've been telling sisters you should get covered. I've been telling family men that you need to start leading your household according to the word. But even more importantly than all of that, of course, we gotta prepare ourselves our spirits for this Passover coming up, because I'm not saying the end is here, but we know that every day we're getting closer and closer and closer. That I can definitely say without no doubt. Right? The brother Barzillai Judah said Esau. I believe that was pertaining to when I said, "Who do you think is going to do this?" Right? Um, Rayanya, the government always doing stuff to their people, then tries to blame it on others. I agree 100%. Right? The government, the government is always doing things, whether you call them false flags, whatever you want to call them. They're always either in the know or they're the ones actually doing it, right? And our government at this point in time, they know how many enemies we have, right? For those of y'all who keep up with current events, you know our borders are wide open. Like I told y'all, I work at one of the borders. Our borders are wide open, and just like in the movie Leave the World Behind, right? There was an attack inside the US, which is highly possible. Just like now, you got all types of sources, all types of governments, from the federal to the state to the counties down to the cities, all people saying that this is highly possible. And even if it's not from another country's attack, like the brother's saying right here, they could easily just make it happen and then blame it on somebody else, right? They'll just do it themselves and blame it on someone else. But either way you look at it, all the elites, the major elites, know what's going on, right? That's why you have all these major billionaires that have been selling their stocks the last few weeks. That's why you have all these insider billionaires that have been building bunkers the last few months, right? And all these people are against us. Then you have thousands and thousands of Chinese nationalists that have been crossing the border, right? Military aged men who, it wouldn't even surprise me, could be working with the powers that be here in this country, right? And the Faucis of this world who will benefit from another virus being put out there, right? So there's many articles and news stories from many different states and local officials, cities, police, emergency management, etc., that are urging people to have at least a few weeks worth of food, at least a few weeks worth of water. Some even say to have bug out bags. Some say to have walkie talkies. I know the brother that I played the clip from, he was talking about Faraday cages, etc. For those of y'all who don't know what a Faraday cage is, by the way, it's basically a metal cage that you can put electronics inside of. And if there was an EMP to go off, it would protect them so that they'll still work afterwards. Right. And I was thinking about doing a Faraday DIY on my YouTube channel, maybe within the next couple of weeks, Yahweh willing. But if you just YouTube DIY Faraday cage, you'll be able to find some pretty simple ones that y'all could do. Right. But I want to urge y'all to Google and read some of these articles. Right. And I'm gonna look for a few and post them up, most high willing, tomorrow as well. Let me go back down in the comments. Someone I seen recently got a disaster assistance note from FEMA, and the deadline to use it is April 8th. So that's not a coincidence, right? Again, like I was saying, and like the brother Barzayah Judah was saying, that's not a coincidence. Another thing that is definitely not a coincidence is that there are 13 states as of, I believe it was yesterday or the day before. There's 13 different states in the United States that have declared a state of emergency for April 8th, for the day of the solar eclipse. 13 states in advance, because think about it, we're still a few weeks out from this. They have already declared a state of emergency. Why would 13 different states declare a state of an emergency this far in advance to April 8th? Why would somebody be getting a disaster assistance notice from FEMA weeks before the date? That just doesn't make any sense, right? But if the dude that was talking, if the Homeland Security, if these governments and people that are involved with the government are preparing, then something's going on, right? Something's going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. Through the spirit, maybe some of y'all can feel it. I know that on my Instagram I had put up that question on my story, and I believe it was like the vast majority. I think when I had looked at it, there was only maybe 2 or 3 people that said, "Nah, I don't feel nothing's coming." One of them, I know the dude. He's in the army and he's all jabbed up, right? So he ain't gonna have no discernment. But the majority of y'all have been feeling something coming. If 13 states have declared a state of an emergency, it's not for no reason. Okay, it is not for no reason. Kingdom minded. I had a job interview for this nuclear missile company out in South Dakota, and the same job overseas for the U.S. military missile systems. It's about to get full real soon. Con. It's getting realer and realer every day. Warrior's Dream. In NYC, they set up quite a few churches as locations that were administering the jab. Con. Down here in South Texas was the same thing. It's like you literally have churches that were having drive-through jab uh locations. It's crazy. Let me go back down on the comments. Says Khan call hello Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. Call Yada Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. Um Barziyah Judah. Damn Ak Warriors Dream. Do your best. You got it. Exactly like the brother said. Do everything you need to do regardless of the world. Don't get too distracted. Make sure you keep the most high first. Everything else will fall into place. And I agree wholeheartedly. When you're following after the most high in humility and in sincerity, you may have a little speed bumps here or there because we all got to be tested, right? If the Most High said prove all things in the scriptures, then He's definitely gonna prove us as well, right? Everything's gonna fall into place as long as you keep your heart and your spirit clean. Warrior's Dream. Absolutely, Ak may even start planning early. Have to honor the Father this year and purge the leaven. Khan. Shalom, brother. If we are presented with an option to move out of the country, what is your take on that? So there are certain individuals and certain congregations, groups, etc. I won't even name some of them. Um, that believe if you're in Babylon or if you're in America, you're not going to make it. There's many scriptures we could go to that disprove that. The Most High's wrath is going to come upon the whole earth. The Most High is going to save people from every corner of the earth, from all 4 winds of the earth, all 4 corners of the earth. It literally says people will be taken, will be saved out of this place that we're in, right? So that's all up to your discernment. um Sister Emily, I believe that you're married. If you are, then that's something up to your head to decide, right? Not out of fear, but if the Most High is opening doors in that way. So what I would say is that according to men's judgment, a man's judgment, a man is the head and he is either going to lead his family to destruction or to salvation. And I've seen many times men leaning in both different directions. So the Most High can open some doors, but guess what? The enemy can be opening doors as well. So that comes down to discernment, right? And but I like that you said not out of fear, right? Somebody said not too long ago that I was fear mongering for talking about these things like the solar eclipse and prophecies and things of that nature, right? And what you have to understand is that fear mongering is the opposite of what I'm doing. So this is Hebrews 11 and 6. It says, but without faith it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to the Most High must believe that he is. So you have to believe that he exists, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. So we have to be diligently seeking him. And if we do diligently seek him, what's he going to do? He is going to reward us. Verse 7, by faith, Noah, being warned of the Most High of things not seen as yet, moved with fear. So it says, by faith, what did Noah do? He just believed and sat there? No, it says, by faith, Noah was warned by the Most High of things he hadn't seen yet. We can't see all this playing out in real time in the physical realm right now, but we do have discernment, and we, some of us can feel on our spirit that something is coming, right? Again, I'm not saying this hour, this day, but I do feel in my spirit and believe without a doubt that something is coming. So just like Noah felt in his spirit of things not seen yet, it says he moved with fear, prepared an ark to the saving of his house. So that fear that he had was of what? It was of the Most High. He prepared an ark to the saving of his house. So like I've told a few brothers recently and in the past, right? If it's too late for you to build an ark, it's better to have some type of flotation device, right? And I won't even elaborate on that. That's for those of you with ears to hear. So it says he prepared an ark to the saving of his house. That's what us as brothers need to be striving to do. These times that we're in right now is not the times to be giving in to childish things, right? Like when it says in the scriptures, when I became a man, I put away childish things. You got certain brothers giving in to going back to weed, going back to holidays, going back to chasing after women and lustful things and all types of craziness. We have to understand as men and as brothers, if you have a family, if you have children, if you have wives, etc., you have much more responsibility, and to whom much is given, much is required. So what if Noah wouldn't have built an ark? You think his family would have been saved? Warrior's dream. We all should be calling upon our power in prayer. Khan. We should all be praying even more than before, right? Even before I came into the truth, April is always a crazy month. Khan. Troke boa. Shalom, Mak. Y'all Bashim Yahushua Barakatah. I hope everything's going good with you and your household. I'm starting to think the Boeing airplane thing and suicide might be a scare tactic to try and prevent us and put fear on us from flying out the country. It could be. It could be, right? I'm not saying yes or no, but it most definitely could be. That's one of the scriptures I quote the most when I'm counseling with sisters is 2 Timothy 1:7, right? That fear spirit is not of the Most High. Barziyah Judah Khan, um, Emily sister. Yes, for the past 4 years it keeps being presented. I would say discernment, and again, like I said, it's going to come down to your head, right? But so getting back to the topic at hand, right? When you think about it, everything that these people are presenting, I only played a couple clips. It was maybe 5, 6 different witnesses, I would say, right? But there are so many different people that are speaking about this right now, because you could see, if you just research into it, you are going to see that there's so many things lining up with this that it's not for no reason, right? We're also in election year. And for those of y'all who are a little bit older and have paid attention to politics, you know, during election year is when all this crazy stuff normally happens, right? You have many people coming out, even some politicians, some senators, saying that they don't even think the elections are going to happen, that we ain't even going to have elections, because elections can be suspended in time of war, in time of national disasters, in time of things like the jab, for example, right? you also have dozens and dozens of schools and school districts. Okay. I thought this was very interesting. School districts that are actually saying that they are closing down and not going to be allowing children to come to school on April 8th, the day of the eclipse. Why would they do that? Right? If 7 years ago everything was cool, right? If 7 years ago they had people, they had certain schools and stuff, parents would sign the little waivers and their children were being taken outside, given the glasses, and it was like a celebration watching the eclipse. But now with this one, next month, you already have dozens and dozens of schools saying, hey, actually, we're closing that day. Your children aren't even allowed to come to school. That's very shady, right? And that, along with the wide open borders, and along with, I mean, 27 biochemical and nuclear specialists being deployed. You have all these other things, all these governments coming out and saying this. What it comes down to is you're either gonna see the signs and believe it, or you're not going to, right? And I know some people from the past may have said this is crazy and it's a conspiracy, but then if you go back to 2019, right before the whole pandemic happened, I guarantee you the majority of people would have said there's no way the world's shutting down. And look what happened, right? Look what happened. It did shut down, right? You have them people planning this for 2 years. Come on, man. For 2 years, there's got to be something bigger behind this. Right. So the point of this, I'm gonna get a couple more scriptures and then probably close it out. The point of this, though, the whole message behind this is not to scare y'all. The point of this is, or not to scare you of the situation that's happening, but it is to scare you of the Most High, because He's the only one we should be fearing. And as we're coming up to Passover, this is what I've been telling them, multiple brothers and sisters, as we're coming up to Passover, whether it be the ones that are trying to come over here and observe it with me and my family and our congregation, whether it be they're going to do it for the first time, whether it be they're going to be doing it the second or third time, or they feel like they didn't do it right. This point in time is very, very crucial to you and to your salvation, because coming up to the Passover, like multiple brothers have been saying on here, and like I've said for years, that is one of the worst times that Satan is going to try to trip you up. Right? So spiritually, of course, first and foremost, you got to get yourself right, but then also physically preparing like Joseph did before the famine in Genesis is a very wise thing to do, right? Many people, or many of you, okay, are too comfortable here in Babylon, right? And that's why one of my favorite verses, probably one of the verses that I've quoted the most as of the last few years or since I've been in the truth, is Jeremiah 6 and 16. I'm going to go ahead and read it real quick. It is Jeremiah chapter 6 and verse 16. Thus saith Yahweh, stand ye in the ways and see, and ask for the old paths. Where is the good way? And walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your souls. But they said, we will not walk therein. The majority of people do not want to walk in the old paths. The old paths is self sufficiency. Now, does that happen overnight? No. Does that happen in a week? No. In a month? No. But taking little steps towards it is what we need to be doing in these times, right? Let me ask y'all this. It shows 13 people on here right now. How much water do you have to last you or your household? How long could you go if everything's shut down, right? How much food do you have to last you and your household? If the electricity went out today, how long would you last without having to be able to go out? And remember, Like the brother Barzillai Judah posted earlier, Proverbs 22:3. A prudent man, someone who uses wisdom to foresee the future, right? He's going to foresee the evil and hide himself. So could you hide yourself if you don't have enough food to last? Like the brother just said, look, I can 24 hours, probably 2 days. The majority of people would run out of food within 3 to 7 days, is what I saw on this. It was on the news broadcast, right? They said Americans, the average household can last 3 to 7 days. They have 3 to 7 days worth of water and food. That's not good, man. That's nowhere near enough. Cause think about it. They were just saying, you had one of these officials from Oklahoma saying, "Hey, we recommend you have 1 to 2 weeks of water and food." That's a warning, right? Now some are gonna say, "Oh man, he's an Edomite, he's a this and that." You don't listen to him, but guess what? The Most High used Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, back in the days to give Israel some truth, to give the heathen some truth. So he can use anybody to warn people, right? So I'm just telling y'all that the old paths, the more sufficient you can be away from the system, is the way to go. It says that is the good way, right? And something else to keep in mind. This verse, I'm gonna read the first part again. It says, "Thus saith Yahweh, stand ye in the ways and see, and ask for the old paths, where is the good way." How many of y'all have asked for the old paths? I guarantee you there's many people out there that claim to be in the truth that have asked the Most High for a new car, that have asked the Most High for a new house, that have asked the Most High for all these things that in reality are vanity and in reality are complete waste of money. Right? There was a brother that thought, oh man, that thought I must be rich because we have a horse and we have, probably over 40 chickens and all this stuff. It's like, no, we're not rich by the world standards. I've never in my life had a new car. I've had over 10 vehicles in my life, right? And I'm only 33. I've never had a new car because I always knew someone in my past told me that's a total waste of money. You get yourself a home and some land before you get a new car. And even then, you got the money for a new car, it's a waste of money. So the point that I'm making is, how many of you have asked for the old paths as opposed to asking for things that are completely the new path? Right? Some people be so happy and be posting it on social media, proud, happy. Oh man, look at this new Mercedes, look at this new chain and all this, and now they're just in debt. Right? The old path is not a path of debt. The old path is a path of self-sufficiency, of course, through the blessings of the Most High. But the point is, you got to ask for it. Ask and ye shall receive, knock and it shall be opened unto you, like our Messiah said, right? So it says, stand ye in the ways and see and ask for the old paths. Where is the good way? And walk therein and walk in that path. Because what I've seen happen with multiple brothers as well in the past is they start going to that old path. And they're like, you know what, man, it's kind of hard. Or they start going down those old paths, and then maybe their rib doesn't like it and starts complaining, man, well, this is work, right? It says, walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your souls. I had to go help I didn't have to, but I was honoring my mother, and I went and helped her move. What was it, last week? She moved from here to about 4 hours away to a bigger city, and went and loaded up her U-Haul one day, the biggest U-Haul they got, loaded everything, drove it all the way over there, unloaded everything, and man, being in a big city, I don't know how, I don't understand y'all who love them big cities, man. It's just a complete, it just complete sin. it's just like blanketed in evil spirits. No matter where you go, no matter where you turn, it's nothing but sin, right? And that's why it says, "You shall find rest for your souls." I truly believe the Most High did not want us to live in these big cities like this. Right now, you got these 10-minute cities or 15-minute cities, whatever they call them, where they want all people to be living in these bigger cities. The reason why is because they're going to lock everybody down one day and they're going to control everybody. Right. And that's in Second Ezra 15. I've done multiple lessons on that. As a matter of fact, I'll get that in just a second. Um, Salakia, the comments just jump back down. Barzayah Judah, not enough living in an apartment. We have enough for maybe 3 days. So that's what I'm saying. Not even to just point you out, Ak, but the majority of brothers that I've asked this for, right? It's like, hey, 3 days, that's not a lot, man. That's not a lot. So putting your money towards prudence, towards whether it be food, whether it be getting out of an apartment, getting out of where there's a high population, because wherever there's a higher population, there's higher sin. Wherever there's higher population, there's going to be a higher rate of violence. There's going to be higher thievery, higher murders, all these types of things that are going to happen in Jacob's trouble when it really gets going, or the tribulation, as some people call it. Right. And again, I'm going to get Second Ezra 15 in just a second that speaks on that. Um, I've been trying, but currently without a hedge, working and trying to do everything at once. Then that's something that why I've been saying for years and years. When you look at all the females that were in the Bible, they had a hedge in some way, shape, or form, right? When you look into certain stories, it'll show that the spirit on women back then was a spirit of shame if they didn't have a covering and if they didn't have children, right? Which is the complete opposite of what sisters have now. But even if they weren't married, right? You look at people like Naomi, right, who lost her husband, but then when her daughter-in-law Ruth got married, she still had a form of a hedge in Ruth's husband, right? So you always have to have some form of hedge, and that's something to pray to the Most High for. And in the meantime, I would definitely exhort you to work on yourself and try to do certain things, but you can't do everything at once, right? Getting It's like I just told a brother a few days ago, right? Struggling with getting things done, not pertaining to this, but just pertaining to getting work done. Make a list, right? Say you got 10 things to do. Start on the list, do one, knock it out. Boom, quickest thing you could do. Next one, boom, knock it out. Maybe only do two things in one day. If you have a list and you're trying to do it decently and in order, the person that does two things is more than likely going to do more than somebody else who doesn't have a list, because they're going to start one thing, don't finish it, jump to the next thing, don't finish it. Now you got a whole bunch of things you're trying to get done that are halfway or less than halfway done, right? Stasha Dior Brooks, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. When I was fighting MMA, one of my coaches, or not coaches, training partners would always say that. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Because there would be certain opportunities, right? When I was at probably the biggest fight gym at that time in this area, there would be opportunities where it's like, hey, this dude pulled out the fight this weekend. You want to fight? It's 5,000 to show up. 5,000 if you win. That's $10,000. And it would be like, man, I haven't been training the way I'm supposed to. Certain people would get opportunities. If they would have stayed ready, they could have took that opportunity. And we got to take that same type of mindset into this truth. And when it comes to these prophecies, right? If you're ready to put yourself in a better position, then you don't have to get ready when that time comes. I've been doing intermediate or intermittent fast. I don't eat breakfast or lunch, probably fruit and vegetables when lunch. And all praises. I do that from time to time, not even saying like I'm going to intermittent fast. I'll just listen to my body, right? And the same thing with me. 'Cause sometimes I go into work at 4 or 5 in the morning, and it's like I'm not even eating till I get out sometimes, and I get out at 1 or 12, right? But the more you can do that, the more or the easier it's going to be if you have to do that later on in Jacob's trouble, right? It's just like my uncle was telling me. Like I said, I was helping my mom move last week, and one of my uncles, the only one that, or the first one that was real cool about the truth. I would tell him about Sabbath, about holy days, and all that. We're talking about Sabbath, and he was like, "Man, that's actually kind of cool that you don't cook." Or I told him like I'll just eat fruit, on Sabbath sometimes. And he's like, "Man, that's actually cool because I know when you're able to fast from food or from certain things, it makes it easier when temptation comes. It's like you're fasting, you're building up your discipline for when the temptation comes." Right? So, right now, fasting when you don't have to is going to be very, very good for you when, if or when you have to do it later on. I've been edifying myself on herbs and gardening lately and starting to plant things now. All praise to the Most High. So that's starting to work, or starting to walk down that path and work towards the old paths, right? Because that's like I was telling someone else not too long ago, and I told many people 100 years ago you couldn't go to a Walmart or a HEB or a Kroger's or a Sam's Club or a Costco and go get all your food, right? You couldn't do all that. So some people actually have a question saved. Someone said something about like being a prepper, but they were saying it in a negative context, right? And when you think about it, what they call preppers nowadays was just life 100 years ago, right? Storing up food in jars and growing food and storing up water and things of this nature. That wasn't called prepper 100 years ago. That was called life because you had to live like that in order to make it, right? So that is the old past, and yeah, all praise to the Most High for that. Our forefathers would trip out on how the society is ran. Khan, man, I've never really thought about that, to be honest with you. That's a good point. They man, they wouldn't be able to stand it. But you know what? Some of our forefathers are us, and we just don't know it because there's no remembrance of the former things, right? Warrior's Dream said that's facts. The cities ain't the cities are not it, man. The cities, I hate big city. When I go to bigger cities and stuff like that, you just feel this whole like I said, I can't explain it any other way besides like a blanketing of just darkness and just evil spirits everywhere you go, right? Glad I escaped NYC. You see what's happening there. Khan, I actually know a sister in that area, and I was telling her about that a few days ago. Like, man, that area and New York City and California are the two like wickedest places, besides of course, like Washington DC and that area. But NYC, Los Angeles, Hollywood, California, there's very, very little places in the entire world where there's more of a mixture of evil spirits. Kingdom minded. I live inside a small town in South Carolina, and I agree with you, Khan. The smaller it is, the more peaceful it is, right? And that's why it said them old paths will give rest for your soul, right? Where I live at, I can go walk in the back through a bunch of crops and stuff like that, and you don't really hear nothing or nobody unless you hear people practicing gunshots out in the distance. And it's peaceful just hearing birds. You'll hear some coyotes. Can walk back pretty far back. There's some water. It's just rest for your souls. In the city, you can't get that. You cannot get that. I remember I stayed at my sister's house one night in San Antonio last week. You go outside and it doesn't matter what time it is. It doesn't matter if it's the morning, if it's the nighttime. You're gonna hear cars honking and music playing and people talking, and it's there's no peace in those cities. That's not the way that the Most High designed for us to live. It's a little out of my comfort zone due to me being new to it, but I'm trusting the Most High to guide me in the process. It takes time and definitely doesn't happen overnight. Khan, nothing, nothing that you start and you start doing new is going to be easy, right? One of my cousins and one of his friends, I just started training them in MMA. Today was his second day, and it's that's why I love martial arts, because it is the perfect example of that relates, or it's the perfect similitude, it's a perfect parable. So the word parable in Greek, it's parabole, right? It means one thing that goes along or is parallel to another thing. It parallels it, right? In martial arts, you will learn, you are going to suck at it when you first start, but through discipline and through consistency, and through being wise about it, using your head, you can get a lot better. It's the same thing with gardening. It's the same thing with coming into this truth. You're gonna mess up, and as you start learning precepts, you start writing them upon the table of your heart. Then you're gonna start seeing like, okay, I'm starting to get a little bit better in this area. I'm starting to rule my spirit better, right? I'm starting to not get angry as much. I'm starting to be able to be more patient with these people. I'm starting to not dislike the Sabbath, like I've said many times before, right? When I came into the faith, I disliked the Sabbath, right? But through the process, the Most High, like just like you said, sister, will guide you if you're sincere and you're diligently seeking Him, like it said in Hebrews the 11th chapter. Uh, Sister K, shalom. Want to leave NYC ASAP. Khan. That's not the place to be, right? That is the NYC and California is the last two places I would ever want to be. I live in a big city in Florida. Man, I know a brother down in Florida too, and well, two brothers actually. From what one of them was telling me, man, there's a lot of wickedness down there. Off the top, the plan is literally to get off grid, trying to get out there to Texas for real. Most high willing, could be neighbors. Con, not con. And like I told you, I believe I told you already. I'm gonna keep you in the loop on that. We're just waiting on we're waiting on somebody to sell some land pretty soon. Yahweh Ratazah. Stasha Dior Brooks, take that leap of faith and Abba will provide. Con. And that leap of faith in the spirit of two things that I always point out, or that I always love about Ruth's story, like you just said, sister, is that she had a working spirit, first of all, right? When you talk about the old past and things of that nature, she was out there in the fields with like a man. She was not afraid to work, right? A lot of sisters and even brothers, to be straight up with y'all, a lot of brothers don't want to work. And that's why they end up not providing for their household. That's why they end up not having the necessities that a man is supposed to have, because they don't even have a fraction of the working spirit that Ruth had, right? But she had faith, she had work, and she had humility, right? And she was respecting her elders as well, which when you read the scriptures, it says that fifth commandment, honor your parents, it's the first commandment with promise. So when you do that, there's a promise that you are going to be blessed by doing that. And she was honoring Naomi, right, who wasn't even her real blood mother. She was actually her mother-in-law, and she was blessed through that. Khan, I've been praying every night that if it's in his will, I will get a hedge in some way. Khan, all praise to the Most High. Practice eating once a day to prepare for Jacob's trouble. That's another good idea as well, right? Is like I was saying earlier, one of my family members when I was over there in San Antonio was saying too, like, man, there's no, because I told him, yeah, on one of the holy days we fast the whole day, and he was like, well, what do you mean the whole day? And I was like, yeah, from even to even, sundown to sundown. And he was like, "Oh man, nah, I couldn't do that. I thought you were talking about like you miss one meal," because he was saying like he could probably do it. Some people are so used to just overindulging and overeating that when those times of Jacob's trouble comes, man, they're gonna go crazy just by not having that genetically modified food, by not having that sugar, right? I know of a sister years ago that she gave up sugar and she literally started having withdrawals. She started having night sweats. She got itchy. So a lot of the things that people eat right now, they're so chemically processed Just like with weed, I don't know if any of y'all seen the articles that have been coming out in the last couple of weeks showing that a lot of this weed that's GMO, genetically modified, they're putting cocaine in it. Some are they've tested it and found fentanyl in it, all types of different chemicals. So from the weed to the food to even water, a lot of the people that can't fast from these things, it's literally because they're addicted to them. So being able to discipline yourself to eat less is definitely something that's going to be expedient. Exactly. Relying on a grocery store is leaving yourself vulnerable. It weighs on me, to be honest. Con, and I'm not gonna lie and say I don't go to the grocery store, right? But we got. I mean, I'm not gonna say exactly how much, but we got enough food to last for a good while, right? And on top of that, I know everybody in my household, if they had to, can eat once a day, if they had to, right? Because even my son Noah kept Day of Atonement with us, right? For 24 hours didn't eat, and we even told him, we're like, dude, do as much as you can, try and do it. But if you feel like sick or you feel something like that, just let us know and we'll talk about it. He went through it, took it like a champ. John Braden just left Los Angeles, wicked as ever. Con. I went to Los Angeles only 2 times in my life, and it was when I was a teenager. And bro, man, even back then, it was just we walked down what is it where they have the stars and stuff? Is it Hollywood Strip or something like that? And man, the wickedness and the crazy at that time, I thought it was cool, right? You see people smoking weed and doing drugs, and you see all types of different whorish women. You got all the entertainers going around and people rapping on the side of the road, some playing drums and stuff on the 5 gallons. I remember I had given a dude $20 when I was when I was a teenager there, and just all types of wickedness, man. I can imagine because we know that in these times that we're living in, it's only going to get more evil and more evil and more evil, right? I hate the city too, especially if you're in the area with the heathens. And that's the thing, man. That's the Most High says we're gonna be mingled amongst the heathen, right? So the more you can be apart from cities or be in smaller cities, at least you're not gonna have to deal with it as much. I'm from NYC and moved to Pennsylvania 11 years ago when my son was born. The Most High literally gave me so much peace and space to grow. All praise to the Most High. I'll be honest, there is a small town in California called Huntington Beach, and it's very nice. Ak, you should check it out. I don't, to be honest with you, I don't plan on making no trips to California, Ak. But yeah, there's small towns in every single state, right? It's where I was able to full disconnect and be set apart and come into this truth. Khan. And that's like the scripture says, it says, be still and know that I'm the most high. You can't be, when you look at that word still, right? Stilling your mind, being able to calm your mind in the big cities, you can't do that. For me, at least, when I'm out in public in a bigger city, I'm always like on guard, right? When I was in the Army Reserve when I was 17, they taught you, you know, when you walk into a room, you got to scan the room and you just kind of look for any type of threats or anything like that. That's something that I see more spiritually now, that I do. And man, in bigger cities, there's no peace. There's no peace. You can't still your mind. You always should feel like you're on guard as a man, especially if you have a family. I used to live right by the highway and it used to be so loud. Con. My sister lives not by a highway but by a main road over there in San Antonio. Man, it's like you just hear cars racing and stuff in the nighttime, and in the day, I mean, it's even worse. Truth be told, my first was when you had held one in 2020 around Passover. My first fasting. Con, con. All praises. Tell me about it, Ak. I ate me some Burger King and I spit it out. Very nasty. My body can't consume that. I don't think I'm not 100% on that, Ak. I'm not 100%, but I wouldn't think that anything at Burger King is lawful. You got to look into the ingredients, and I guarantee you, the majority of it, if not all of it, is going to have mono and diglycerides, which 90 something percent of it is derived from pork, right? And if not, it's going to have MSG, BHT, red 40, yellow 5. It's going to have all types of stuff that causes cancer, that is going to kill your testosterone, etc. Okay, Con, Hollywood Boulevard. Yeah, Hollywood Boulevard, the water, John Braden. When I walked through there, I was just like, man, just wickedness. And I remember it to this day. It smelled like cigarettes and it smelled like restroom. Troqueboa, it really sucks for those of us stuck in California. It seems the system's set for those living check to check, making it harder for them to leave, but may his will be done. Khan, and that's why the scriptures say that Israel is going to be subject to payments, right? But this is why you got to the best of your ability, of course, like you said, let his will be done. Asking you shall receive, knocking it shall be opened unto you. But then at the same time, like I tell, not just telling you, but I've told many, many brothers over the years, you got to start looking at what you're spending money on, where you can save it, etc. And you'll be surprised at how other states compare to California, right? Like, for example, down here in South Texas, if you look at what's called the Valley, it is the four most southern counties: Starr County, Willacy County, Cameron County. Down here in South Texas, bro, we have like one of the lowest cost of living of anywhere in the United States, right? So compared to California, y'all's rent is probably 2 to 4 times as much, just depending on where you stay at. So it's possible for you to get out of there, is what I'm saying. Con, processed foods starts to taste different when you start eating real food. Con, con. I remember when I wasn't even in the faith at that time, but when I was fighting MMA and I started eating nothing but organic and like whole foods, right? Nothing processed, nothing GMO, all whole foods. And then I ended up getting a job where I was working with this heathen dude, and he would buy all of us who were workers, all us Israelites, I didn't know at that time, workers. He would buy us a bunch of like tacos and enchiladas and all this type of Mexican food, but it wasn't real Mexican food. You know what I mean? And man, I got so sick. I ended up almost having to get surgery and get my what is it called? My gallbladder removed. So I immediately, my doctor told me, hey, well, you had to have changed something in your diet. I told him what I did. I started eating unhealthy, and he's like, oh nah, man, your body just went into shock. So once you start eating healthy food and your body adjusts to that, yeah, you won't be. I literally could not go back to eating unhealthy food. Have you seen a lot of these adult content women have been dropping dead? I haven't. I haven't, to be honest with you, but it don't surprise me whatsoever. The Most High's vengeance is going to come to pass more and more and more as the days progress, as the prophecies progress, and everything. Right. So I'm just going to go over a couple things real quick, and I'm gonna get a couple more scriptures, and then I'm gonna go ahead and close it out. Right. Or actually, I'm gonna read this. This is Luke 21 and 25. It says, and there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring. So that first part, it says there's going to be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars. Remember, we read in Genesis 1 and 14, it said that the Most High uses the sun and the moon for signs. The way he uses them for signs is eclipses. What other signs can they give? Right. And just like back in the days of Egypt, when they had all these enchanters, witches, and warlocks and things of that nature, they were doing all this type of magic. But one thing they could not do was make eclipses happen. Right. So when an eclipse happens, you should already know this is a sign from the Most High for some purpose, for some reason. Even if you don't know, I don't know what it is, Your discernment should be telling you. The Most High said multiple times. We read in Genesis, now we're reading in Luke. It says in Acts. It says in Joel, the second chapter as well. I'll get a couple more precepts. It says that the Most High uses the sun and the moon for signs. So this has to be a sign of something. And like I said earlier, if you look at events that happened during eclipses, many different wars, many different assassinations, many very important historical events, right? When Nat Turner rebelled against the slave masters, that was actually during an eclipse. He thought it was a sign from the Most High for him to rebel, and they started killing off slave owners, right? Eclipses, when you go into like worldly knowledge, many people say during eclipses it changes your emotions. Some say it makes you the real you come out, etc. Eclipses have an effect on us and have an effect on societies and nations in general, right? And as I said earlier, there's only been 8 eclipses since 1776 when the United States became a country. 2 during the Revolutionary War, 3 during the Civil War, two during the Vietnam War, right? Most eclipses have been during war times. So it's not a coincidence then that 13 states from the United States have called for a state of emergency on this day, on the day of the eclipse. When the last eclipse, which was in 2017, only 7 years ago, right? There was no state of emergency by any state. So what is so different 7 years later? The last time, the last eclipse, there was no problem. You had kids going to school. Now, for this eclipse, a bunch of kids ain't even gonna be allowed to go to school. The schools are gonna be shut down, right? How come the 7 years ago, no states called for a state of an emergency? But now, fast forward 7 years to this one that's about to happen. And look, you got 13 states calling for a state of an emergency. You got a lot of people saying, oh, it's just a precautionary measure. The government would never do that. But like I said earlier, people also thought that the world would never lock down before the lockdown. And then look what happened, right? So we just got to be real vigilant about this. And I'm actually going to get a verse that a brother had brought out to me. Because, see, whether you believe it or not, some people think it's crazy. Some people think it's a conspiracy and all this. But I wholeheartedly believe that the Most High speaks in numbers as well, right? You got a book called Numbers. Why would he not speak in numbers? So on 4/8, which is April 8th, right? The date is 4/8. There's going to be a solar eclipse, right? I'm going to get Exodus chapter 4 and verse 8 real quick. Exodus chapter 4 and verse 8, which is the equivalent of the date when the solar eclipse is going to be. This is Exodus 4 and 8. It says, and it shall come to pass if they will not believe thee, neither hearken to the voice of the first sign, that they will believe the voice of the latter sign. Right? So if they don't believe the first sign, they will believe the second sign. Okay, so the first sign, if you're looking at it comparing to this eclipse, 7 years ago, there was no war going on. There was no states of emergency. There was no governments preparing 2 years in advance for it. But now this second one, which is going to be on 4/8, which equals Salak, you're saying that the audio is bad. Hold on real quick. Can y'all hear me? It kicked me out and I had to get back in. Y'all let me know if y'all can hear me. Have multiple people saying audio's bad, bad audio. Your code for Con. Okay, Con. So it said if in Exodus 4 and 8, Con, we hear you. Okay, all praises. So Exodus 4 and 8, it says if they don't hear or believe the first sign, they will believe the second sign. So if you're pertaining this to, because a lot of scriptures have polysemy, okay, just like many of y'all are familiar with or know the term polygyny, a man with more than one wife. A lot of scriptures have polysemy, meaning they can have two or more than two, multiple meanings or multiple things they can be applied to. So that first sign, if you're looking at the eclipse that was 7 years ago, nobody was worried about it, right? They weren't preparing. They didn't have governments. They didn't have the national government. They didn't have the state governments. They didn't have the county governments. They didn't have the city governments or police. They didn't have the National Guard like in Oklahoma. Why are they going to have hundreds of National Guard troops there? It doesn't make any sense, right? But that second sign, that next eclipse, for whatever reason, again, I'm not saying it's because of this specifically. I'm not saying this is going to happen. That's going to happen. That's not what I'm saying. But I do feel in my spirit 100% something is going to come to pass soon. And it doesn't surprise me at all. And it won't surprise me at all if it's right around or right before the Passover. Because, like the brother Barzayah Judah was saying, um, like the brother Kingdom Minded was saying, like I was saying, I was talking to another brother yesterday or the day before about that. It's always before Passover that these types of things happen. Okay, because the devil knows the Bible better than the majority of people. So he obviously is going to be working around them same times that we're supposed to be praising the Most High, that we're supposed to be getting our spirits right, that we're supposed to be doing the things we need to do. He's going to try to trip us up. He's going to try and put a stumbling block in front of us, right? And then you're going to have some people that just either don't care. You're going to have some people that don't believe it. In the end, it goes back to what I was saying earlier, Matthew 13 and 16. Yahushua said, blessed are your eyes, for they see, blessed are your ears, for they hear. Many people have been desiring to see these types of things. And I remember even before I came into the truth, I'm talking about when I first met my rib like 12 years ago, and we were heavy, what you would call conspiracy theorists. I always thought some type of like Walking Dead, what they'll call Black Swan event was going to happen, right? And I guarantee you, we're closer now. We're closer now. We're closer now. We're closer now. Damn. Y'all hear that?